Don't let them take her into surgery yet. Please, just trust me on this." The pharmacist's hand was shaking as she gripped my arm in the hospital hallway. Her name tag read Dr. Amy Chen, and the fear in her eyes made my blood run cold. Have you ever had someone you barely know beg you to stop something that seems completely routine and every instinct screams that you should listen? That Wednesday afternoon, I thought I was just being a supportive grandmother. My granddaughter Emily, 16 years old, had fallen down the stairs at home. "A terrible accident," her stepfather Kyle said when he called me. "She hit her head pretty badly, but she'd be fine. Just needed some tests. Maybe stitches." "I should probably come down to Sacred Heart Hospital in Portland," he told me, since my daughter Rebecca was on a business trip in New York and wouldn't be back until tomorrow. I drove the 40 minutes from my house in Lake Oswego with my heart in my throat, but honestly, I wasn't panicking. Teenagers fall. They skateboard and trip and do foolish things. Emily was young and healthy. She'd be okay. The pediatric emergency department was busy that afternoon. I found Kyle in the waiting area, looking appropriately concerned. He's 35, 12 years younger than my daughter, and I've never quite warmed to him in the 3 years he's been married to Rebecca. There's something about men who are too charming, too quick with compliments, too eager to please. But Rebecca loved him, and Emily seemed to tolerate him well enough, so I kept my mouth shut. "Maggie, thank God you're here," Kyle said, standing to hug me. "They're saying she needs surgery, something about bleeding on the brain. I signed the consent forms already, but since you're here, they want you to look at them too. You know, in case Rebecca has questions when she lands." "Surgery? I thought you said she just fell?" "She did, just fell, but apparently she hit her head at just the wrong angle." His voice caught convincingly. "I feel terrible. I was downstairs in my office. I heard the thud and ran up, and there she was, unconscious at the bottom of the stairs. I called 911 immediately. A nurse appeared and led us back to a consultation room. Not Emily's room, I noticed. "Where's my granddaughter?" I asked. "She's in imaging right now," the nurse said. "Doctor, Morrison will be with you shortly to discuss the surgery." The consultation room was small and sterile. Kyle sat next to me, fidgeting with his phone. "Rebecca's flight is delayed," he muttered. "Storm over Chicago. She won't be here until midnight at the earliest." Dr. Morrison arrived 10 minutes later with a stack of papers and a grave expression. He was maybe 50, with gray at his temples and tired eyes that had probably delivered bad news too many times. "Mrs. Anderson, I'm Dr. Morrison, the neurosurgeon on call. Your granddaughter has what we call an epidural hematoma. That's bleeding between the skull and the brain. We need to operate within the next 2 hours to relieve the pressure, or we risk permanent brain damage or death." The words hit me like a punch. Death, my Emily, the little girl who used to make me dandelion bouquets and write me poetry for my birthday. "The surgery involves drilling a small hole in the skull to drain the blood, Doctor," Morrison continued. "It's serious, but the prognosis is generally good if we act quickly. I understand, Mr. Brennan here has already signed consent as the legal guardian, but since you're next of kin as well, we'd like your signature too." He slid the papers across the table. My hand reached for the pen automatically. This was Emily's life. Of course I'd sign. Of course I'd do whatever it took to save her. That's when the door opened. Dr. Amy Chen wasn't supposed to be there. I learned later that she was the hospital pharmacist, and pharmacists don't typically attend surgical consultations. But there she was, slightly out of breath, her black hair coming loose from its ponytail. "Dr. Morrison, could I have a word?" Her voice was higher than normal. Strained, Dr. Morrison frowned. "Dr. Chen, we're in the middle of a family consultation. It's about the medication orders for the patient." She cut him off, which clearly wasn't normal protocol based on how his eyebrows shot up. "There's a discrepancy I need to discuss. Immediately. Can it wait 20 minutes? "No." Her eyes flicked to me, then to Kyle, then back to Dr. Morrison. "It really can't." Dr. Morrison excused himself and stepped into the hallway with Dr. Chen. Through the small window in the door, I could see them talking. Her hands moved urgently. His expression shifted from annoyed to confused to concerned. Kyle checked his phone again. "Bureaucracy," he sighed. Always something. 2 minutes later, Dr. Morrison returned alone. I apologize for the interruption. There's a small delay while we verify some medication protocols. Nothing to worry about. I'll be back in 15 minutes. He took the unsigned papers with him. I stood up. I need to use the restroom, I told Kyle. It's just down the hall to the left. But I didn't go to the restroom. I went looking for Dr. Chen. I found her at the pharmacy window on the second floor, and when she saw me approaching, something like relief crossed her face. "Mrs. Anderson," she said quietly, "I was hoping you'd come find me. What's going on? What's wrong with Emily's medications?" She glanced around the hallway, then pulled me into a small consultation room, similar to the one I just left. She closed the door. "There's nothing wrong with her medications," Dr. Chen said. I lied to get Dr. Morrison out of that room. My stomach dropped. "I don't understand. Mrs. Anderson, I need you to listen to me very carefully, and I need you not to think I'm crazy." She took a breath. "When I was reviewing the medication orders for Emily's surgery prep, I noticed something odd. Someone had ordered a pre-surgical sedative that's not standard protocol for this type of emergency surgery. It's not dangerous exactly, but it's unusual. So I checked her admission records." She pulled out a tablet and showed me a screen full of medical jargon I couldn't fully understand. "Emily came in unconscious, correct? But here's the thing. Her initial blood work showed extremely elevated levels of zolpidem, that's Ambien, a sleep medication, enough to knock out an adult male twice her size. But Emily doesn't take Ambien. She's 16. "Exactly." Dr. Chen's hands trembled as she swiped to another screen. I thought maybe it was a lab error, so I checked again. No error. Then I looked at her bruising patterns from the fall. I'm not a forensic expert, but I've seen enough cases to know what defensive wounds look like. "Mrs. Anderson, the bruises on your granddaughter's forearms are consistent with someone grabbing her, hard." The room tilted. I gripped the edge of the table. "And then there's this." She showed me another screen. Someone tried to order additional sedatives to be administered before surgery, not standard protocol. It would have made her more difficult to wake up after the operation. The order came from a tablet logged in under Mr. Brennan's visitor access. "Kyle?" The word came out as a whisper. "I don't have proof of anything," Dr. Chen said quickly. "I could be completely wrong, but my sister died 5 years ago. Her husband pushed her down the stairs. Everyone thought it was an accident until the autopsy showed she'd been drugged first. The paramedics, the police, everyone just accepted his story. By the time anyone questioned it, it was too late." Her eyes filled with tears. "I can't prove anything about Emily," she continued, "but I'm begging you, don't let them rush this surgery. Don't sign anything until someone investigates. Ask for a police officer to be present. Ask for a toxicology report. Ask questions. Because if I'm right, and you sign those papers, and something goes wrong in surgery," she didn't finish the sentence. My mind raced. Kyle had been so insistent that I come to the hospital, so eager to have those forms signed. Rebecca was conveniently out of state. "Why would Kyle want to hurt Emily?" I asked, even though part of me already knew. "I don't know your family situation," Dr. Chen said carefully. "But I'd ask yourself this: who benefits if something happens to that girl?" And suddenly, it clicked. Emily's biological father, Rebecca's first husband, had died in a car accident when Emily was 3. He'd left Emily a trust fund, $800,000, accessible when she turned 18, 2 years from now. Rebecca managed it as trustee. But if something happened to Emily before she turned 18, the money would go to Rebecca. And if something happened to both Rebecca and Emily, Kyle was Rebecca's husband, her beneficiary. "Oh my God," I breathed. "Mrs. Anderson, I could lose my job for this," Dr. Chen said. "If I'm wrong, I've just committed a massive HIPAA violation and slandered a patient's family member. But I'd rather lose my job than watch another girl die when I could have prevented it. What do I do?" "Don't sign the surgery consent. Not yet. Emily needs the surgery, but she needs it done right. Demand to see her first. Demand a police officer be present. Demand a full toxicology screen and an investigation into how she fell. Make noise. Ask questions. Don't let them rush you." I walked back to that consultation room on shaking legs. Kyle looked up when I entered. "Everything okay? You were gone a while." I got lost, I lied. This hospital is a maze. Dr. Morrison returned 5 minutes later with the consent forms. Sorry for the delay. We're ready to proceed. If you could just sign here, Mrs. Anderson. I looked at the pen, at the dotted line, at Kyle watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. I'd like to see Emily first, I said. Of course, but the surgery is time-sensitive. I understand. But I'm not signing anything until I see my granddaughter. My voice came out firmer than I felt. And I'd like to speak with hospital security about reviewing any security footage from when she was admitted. Kyle's face changed, just for a second, a flash of something cold. Maggie, what are you talking about? We need to save Emily. I'd also like to request a police officer be present, I continued, my heart hammering, and a full toxicology report explaining why my 16-year-old granddaughter has Ambien in her system. The room went very quiet. Dr. Morrison looked confused. How did you know about the toxicology? Kyle stood up abruptly. This is ridiculous. You're wasting time while Emily is dying. Rebecca is going to be furious. Rebecca is going to want to know why her daughter was drugged, I said, standing to face him. Sit down, Kyle. I don't have to listen to this. He moved toward the door. Dr. Morrison, to his credit, stepped in front of it. Mr. Brennan, I think perhaps we should all take a breath and get out of my way. Hospital security is already on their way, a voice said from the doorway. Dr. Chen stood there with 2 security guards, along with Portland police. There seems to be some question about the circumstances of Emily Anderson's fall. What happened next felt like a movie. Kyle tried to leave. The security guards blocked him. He started shouting about lawsuits and wrongful accusations. A police officer arrived, then 2 more. Dr. Chen quietly explained about the Ambien levels and the suspicious medication orders. Dr. Morrison, looking shaken, agreed to delay the surgery for 1 hour while they sorted things out. I finally got to see Emily. She was in the ICU, unconscious, hooked up to machines that beeped and hummed. Her beautiful face was bruised, one eye swollen shut. But she was breathing. She was alive. I held her hand and whispered, "Hold on, sweetheart. Just hold on." The police investigation moved quickly once it started. They found the Ambien bottle in Kyle's bathroom at home, prescribed to him for occasional insomnia. They reviewed the home security camera footage, which Emily had secretly installed in the upstairs hallway 3 months earlier. She'd told her best friend she felt weird about being alone in the house with Kyle. That she'd caught him staring at her strangely. That conversation was in text messages the police recovered from her phone. The security footage showed Kyle following Emily upstairs that afternoon, showed them arguing, showed him grabbing her arms, her pulling away, and then showed him pushing her. Not a fall, a push. Deliberate, calculated. They found text messages between Kyle and a woman named Vanessa, his girlfriend, messages dating back 8 months, discussing life insurance policies and trust funds, discussing how much they could get if something happened to both Rebecca and Emily, how they could start fresh together. They found a draft email on Kyle's laptop, never sent, researching undetectable ways to cause a fatal brain bleed during surgery. The Ambien had been in Emily's orange juice that morning. Kyle had made her breakfast, her usual routine before school. She'd felt dizzy during second period. By lunchtime, she'd asked to go to the nurse's office. Kyle had picked her up early, claiming she had a dentist appointment. Emily texted her friend from the car, "Feels so weird, so tired." That was her last message before she fell. They arrested Kyle that evening, charged him with attempted murder, drugging a minor, and conspiracy to commit fraud. Vanessa was arrested the next day at her apartment across town. Emily had her surgery that night. Dr. Morrison, visibly shaken by how close they'd come to playing into a murder plot, performed it himself. The surgery was successful. The bleeding stopped. The pressure relieved. But Emily didn't wake up right away. Rebecca arrived from New York at 1 a.m, frantic and destroyed. I'd called her on the plane, told her enough to get her home, told her that Kyle had hurt Emily, that he'd been arrested. The full details could wait until she was on the ground. She sat by Emily's bedside for 3 days straight. I sat with her. We didn't talk much. What was there to say? Her husband had tried to murder her daughter for money. The man she'd shared a bed with for 3 years had been plotting her daughter's death. maybe even her own death. On the fourth day, Emily woke up. Her eyes fluttered open. She looked confused, unfocused. Rebecca grabbed her hand. "Em? Baby? Can you hear me?" Emily's voice was barely a whisper. "Mom?" Rebecca sobbed. "I'm here. I'm right here. You're safe. You're going to be okay." Emily's eyes found me over Rebecca's shoulder. "Grandma? I'm here too, sweetheart." "Kyle." He pushed me. I know. He's in jail. He can't hurt you anymore." The recovery took months. Emily had to relearn some things. Her balance was off for a while. She had headaches, but she was alive. She was talking, walking, laughing, slowly getting back to being herself. Kyle's trial was 8 months later. "Doctor," Chen testified, "so did I, so did Emily," in a recorded deposition because the judge didn't want to traumatize her further. The evidence was overwhelming. Home security footage, text messages, medication records, financial documents showing Kyle's gambling debts, and Vanessa's shopping habits funded by credit cards he'd opened in Rebecca's name. The jury convicted him in 4 hours. 25 years for attempted murder. Vanessa got 15 years for conspiracy. Rebecca divorced him while he was awaiting trial. She quit her job that required so much travel. We sold the house where it happened. Too many bad memories. They moved in with me for 6 months while Rebecca figured things out, found a new job with better hours, found a new place that felt safe. Emily just turned 18 last month. She graduated high school with honors despite missing half of junior year. The trust fund her father left her is finally accessible, all $800,000 of it. She's planning to use it for college, study criminal justice. She wants to be a victim advocate. Dr. Amy Chen became a family friend. She checks in on Emily every few months. She came to her graduation party. Emily calls her Aunt Amy now. Sometimes I think about what would have happened if Dr. Chen hadn't stopped me in that hallway, if she hadn't trusted her instincts, if she hadn't risked her career to speak up. Emily would have gone into surgery with those extra sedatives in her system. Maybe she wouldn't have woken up. Maybe there would have been complications. And Kyle would have stood by Rebecca's side at the funeral, playing the grieving stepfather, waiting for his next opportunity. Instead, Emily is alive. She's thriving. She's planning her future. Dr. Chen told me later that she'd had nightmares for months before that day about her sister's death, about all the warning signs she'd missed, about the moment she realized her brother-in-law was a murderer and it was too late to save her sister. She'd switched specialties from emergency medicine to pharmacy because she couldn't handle the trauma cases anymore. But when she saw Emily's lab results, something clicked. She couldn't stay silent. Not again. I asked her once if she really thought I would have listened to her. If I really would have stopped the surgery based on the word of a pharmacist I'd never met. "I didn't know," she admitted, "but I had to try. I couldn't live with myself if I didn't try." That's the thing about moments like that, isn't it? You never know which moment is going to change everything, which person is going to save your life or your loved one's life, which whispered warning in a hospital hallway is going to be the difference between justice and tragedy. My daughter Rebecca still struggles with trusting people. She's in therapy. Emily is too. They're both working through the trauma of realizing someone they lived with wanted them dead. That's not something you just get over, but they're working through it together. They're healing. They're building a new life. And every time I visit Emily at college, every time I see her smile, or hear her laugh, or watch her living her beautiful, messy, complicated life, I think about Dr. Amy Chen, about her trembling hands and frightened eyes and the courage it took to speak up when every professional instinct probably told her to mind her own business. I think about how close we came to losing Emily, how many things had to go exactly right for her to survive. The security camera she'd installed because something felt wrong, the text messages she sent to her friend, Dr. Chen's sister's tragedy giving her the courage to intervene, my decision to listen to a stranger instead of dismissing her as paranoid. Trust your gut, people always say. Listen to your instincts, but I'd add something to that. Listen to other people's instincts too. When someone risks something to warn you, to help you, to protect you, or someone you love, listen to them. Don't dismiss them because they're a stranger or because it seems paranoid or because it's inconvenient or uncomfortable. Dr. Chen risked her career for a girl she'd never met. And because she did, Emily is alive. So if you ever find yourself in a moment like that, where a stranger pulls you aside with fear in their eyes and asks you to wait, to question, to dig deeper, I'm begging you, listen, because the life they save might be someone you love. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, I'd appreciate if you'd subscribe to hear more. Sometimes the truth is stranger and more terrifying than any fiction. I'll see you in the next story.